Why this mindset is your secret weapon. Here's what most people don't understand. They're giving away their power every single day. A stranger's opinion derails their confidence. A small failure ruins their week. A critical comment replays in their mind for months. They live at the mercy of circumstances, other people's moods, and emotions they never learned to govern. But there's another way to live. The most successful people, those who command natural respect and achieve extraordinary results, have discovered something profound. They've learned to be selectively responsive rather than constantly reactive. They feel emotions just as deeply as anyone else, but they choose their responses with intention. The strategic power of selective indifference. Life bombards you with noise, opinions, setbacks, daily irritations, unexpected problems. Most people try to handle everything with equal intensity. They exhaust themselves fighting battles that don't matter, defending positions that aren't worth holding. But true strength reveals itself when you master selective indifference, the ability to distinguish between what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Picture yourself as a mountain in a storm. The wind howls, rain pounds, lightning strikes. The storm rages with tremendous force, yet the mountain remains unmoved, not because it doesn't feel the storm, but because it understands its own foundation is stronger than any temporary weather. This is the essence of composure, remaining anchored in your deeper purpose while surface storms pass by. The strategic power of selective indifference. Life bombards you with noise, opinions, setbacks, daily irritations, unexpected problems. Most people try to handle everything with equal intensity. They exhaust themselves fighting battles that don't matter, defending positions that aren't worth holding. But true strength reveals itself when you master selective indifference, the ability to distinguish between what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Picture yourself as a mountain in a storm. The wind howls, rain pounds, lightning strikes. The storm rages with tremendous force, yet the mountain remains unmoved, not because it doesn't feel the storm, but because it understands its own foundation is stronger than any temporary weather. This is the essence of composure, remaining anchored in your deeper purpose while surface storms pass by. Real-world application. The insult test. Let's make this concrete. You're in a meeting and someone makes a cutting remark about your ideas. Or you're walking down the street and a stranger makes an unnecessary comment about your appearance. The typical response? Anger, defense, counterattack, the need to prove them wrong. But watch what happens when you do something unexpected. Nothing. You acknowledge what was said with a slight nod, perhaps even a genuine smile, and continue with your original purpose. No heated response, no dwelling on their words, no story replayed later to friends. What have you accomplished? First, you've denied them the reaction they wanted. Second, you've maintained your emotional equilibrium. Third, you've demonstrated a kind of quiet confidence that actually commands more respect than any verbal comeback could. This isn't weakness, it's strategic strength. Reframing failure as intelligence. This principle becomes even more powerful when applied to failure. Most people experience failure as a personal assault. They internalize it, replay it, and let it define their future possibilities. They turn temporary setbacks into permanent limitations. Those with unshakable composure see failure differently. They treat it as data, valuable information about what doesn't work, pointing toward what might. When you stop taking failure personally, you stop being controlled by the fear of it. And when you're not controlled by that fear, you become capable of taking the intelligent risks that lead to breakthrough results. Building your daily practice. So how do you develop this mindset systematically? The strategic pause. When something triggers irritation or anger, insert a moment of silence before responding. Ask yourself, will engaging with this move me closer to my goals or further from them? Most of the time, the answer clarifies everything. Mental rehearsal. Regularly visualize yourself handling challenging situations with composure. See yourself receiving criticism calmly, facing setbacks with equanimity, maintaining your center when others lose theirs. Your mind learns to live up to the image you consistently feed it. Purpose. Anchoring. Connect daily with your larger mission. When you're genuinely focused on meaningful work, petty annoyances naturally fade into the background. They simply don't register as important compared to what you're building. The distinction between detachment and suppression. Let's clarify something crucial. Emotional detachment is not emotional suppression. Suppression means pushing feelings down, pretending they don't exist, or numbing yourself to avoid pain. This approach eventually backfires. Suppressed emotions tend to emerge later with compound interest. Detachment means experiencing emotions fully while maintaining perspective about them. You feel anger, but you don't become anger. You experience disappointment, but you don't identify as a disappointed person. Think of emotions as weather patterns in your mind. Detachment means being the sky rather than the storm, aware of what's happening while remaining fundamentally unchanged by temporary conditions. A case study in resilience. Consider this scenario. An entrepreneur spends 3 years building a company. Market conditions shift unexpectedly and the business fails. His investment is gone. His team disbands. From the outside, it looks like a complete catastrophe. But he surprises everyone. Instead of bitterness or despair, he displays genuine curiosity about what went wrong and what he learned. Within months, he's working on his next venture, incorporating the hard-won wisdom from his failure. What enabled this response? He understood that his true asset wasn't the business. It was his capacity to build businesses. That capacity couldn't be taken away by external circumstances. Why emotional mastery determines success. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most people fail not due to lack of skill or opportunity, but due to emotional mismanagement. Fear stops them from starting. Doubt convinces them to quit when progress gets difficult. Frustration makes them abandon projects just before breakthrough. Pride prevents them from learning from mistakes. But those who master their emotional responses persist through challenges that stop others. They continue working when feelings suggest stopping. They remain open to feedback when emotions recommend defensiveness. This emotional consistency becomes their greatest competitive advantage. Practical detachment training. Here's how to strengthen this skill. The 5-year filter. When facing criticism or setbacks, ask yourself, will this matter to me in 5 years? If not, treat it accordingly. Curiosity over judgment. When someone attacks your ideas or character, get curious instead of defensive. What might be driving their response? What grain of useful feedback might be buried in their hostility? The observer self. Practice watching your own emotional reactions as if you were a scientist studying an interesting phenomenon. This creates just enough space between you and the emotion to maintain choice about your response. The magnetic effect of composure. Something interesting happens when you develop genuine composure. People notice. In a world where most individuals are visibly reactive, their moods written across their faces, their opinions proclaimed loudly, someone who remains centered becomes magnetic. Not because they demand attention, but because their presence suggests access to something others want, inner stability. This isn't about being aloof or superior. It's about being genuinely anchored in something deeper than the surface turbulence of daily life. Testing your progress, the unfair criticism. Here's a practical test of your development. Someone criticizes you unfairly in front of others. Your work, your character, your choices, something important to you gets attacked in a way that feels unjust. The untrained response is immediate defense, explaining, justifying, counterattacking. The energy goes toward proving the critic wrong. The trained response is different. You listen completely. You acknowledge their perspective. You ask clarifying questions if appropriate. You thank them for their input. Then you continue with your original plans, incorporating anything useful they offered while discarding the rest. This response often surprises critics. They expected a fight and got thoughtful consideration instead. Your composure transforms the entire dynamic. Integration and daily application. Let me tie this together practically. Unshakable composure isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming strategically responsive rather than reflexively reactive. Your daily practice includes pausing before responding to triggers. visualizing yourself handling challenges with grace, treating setbacks as valuable data rather than personal attacks, distinguishing between emotions you feel and responses you choose, focusing your energy only on what genuinely serves your larger purpose. When you consistently apply these practices, something shifts. The external world's ability to derail your inner state gradually diminishes. You develop what psychologists call an internal locus of control, the deep knowing that your experience is determined more by your responses than by your circumstances. The compound effect. This mindset creates compound benefits. Improved decision-making. When you're not driven by immediate emotional reactions, you make better long-term choices. Enhanced relationships. People trust those who remain steady under pressure. Your composure becomes a stabilizing force for others. Increased resilience. Each challenge you handle with grace increases your confidence in facing future challenges. Greater focus. Energy previously spent on emotional reactions becomes available for productive work. Natural authority. Composure commands respect without demanding it. Your next level. So here's your path forward. Starting today, begin treating your emotional responses as choices rather than automatic reactions. When something disturbs your peace, pause and ask, what response would serve my highest good? Practice this consistently, and you'll discover something remarkable. The external world gradually loses its power to destabilize your internal world. You'll walk through life with a quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. You'll handle criticism, setbacks, and challenges with the kind of grace that others admire but can't quite explain. Closing thoughts. The next time life presents you with a storm, and it will, remember this. You don't have to be moved by every wind that blows. You don't have to be shaken by every criticism that comes. You don't have to be derailed by every setback you encounter. You can stand in your own center, acknowledge what's happening around you, extract any useful information, and continue moving toward what matters most to you. This is not indifference born of apathy. This is selective responsiveness born of wisdom. This is not emotional numbness. This is emotional mastery. This is not cold detachment. This is strategic engagement. And when you master this art, you'll discover something Napoleon Hill knew well. True power comes not from controlling your environment, but from controlling your responses to your environment. Master your responses, and you master your life. The choice, as always, is yours. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. I really appreciate your support. Your time means a lot to me. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join this growing community. I look forward to sharing more with you soon.